Okay, everyone, welcome to the webinar, Why Delivery is Your Hidden Growth Lever. And we have 30 minutes here together today, and we're a really big crowd, so happy to have so many people joining here today. During this session, I'll say it's not only going to be me and my colleague Thomas talking here today. You actually need to be a little bit active yourselves, but most of the time you can lean back and just listen in. At the end of this webinar, we'll do a Q&A session. So you have a Q&A function here in Zoom. So make sure to put in your questions, and if we have time over at the end, we'll cover those. And one thing, if you haven't heard me before in webinars from nShift, I tend to speak a little bit fast when I get excited by stuff, and this is a topic I tend to get excited about. So there's going to be a recording afterwards shared. So if you miss me on some topics during the day during the 30 minutes, you can always look at the recording at the end. But I'll start with a personal short story here before we jump into the topic of what we're going to talk about here today, a little bit to set the scene. So Vola, I'm going to talk about a brand called Vola, and it's just like a personal story. This has nothing to do actually with nShift, really. So me and my wife, we figured out we're going to redo our bathrooms a while back, and Vola does like premium taps. I didn't know anything about them before we actually did our bathrooms. But my wife came home and said, actually, Carl, I want to have like Vola taps. Like, okay, fine, let's do Vola taps. They look beautiful. And so we went to their website and we purchased a few taps. And what happens afterwards is the thing that I think was very interesting, is that Vola is, as I said, a premium tap brand, and they fully understood that what happens after the purchase of their products is so closely connected to the overall customer experience. So the shipping experience that we went through was very, very premium. So the guy who it was a guy calling shortly after we bought the taps, and he mentioned actually now we're assembling the taps from our factories. It's going to come to me, and then I'm going to drive down. So I live outside of Gothenburg. I'm going to drive down with these taps and actually deliver them themselves to you guys. I'll also guide the construction workers how to install the taps. I mean, I told my wife, this is amazing. This is the best experience I ever had, buying something, especially when redoing stuff at your home. And it actually made us buy more stuff from them afterwards. They do other stuff for bathrooms as well, but it just shows that Vola fully embraced the shipping experience connected to their actual brand that they wanted their customers to actually experience. And I think that's a really strong thing to do, and we see a lot of brands out there not doing that, are very disconnected to the entire customer journey. And we have a small quote. I promise this guy to never talk about this, but it's not made up. This is actually true. So it's a very large retailer in the Nordics. They sell books and other stuff, and they're not a customer of nShift actually, but I tend to bump into this guy on trade shows, etc. And he mentioned that actually on our web shop, we argue that we say internally that 90% of our customer experience is actually related to shipping, which is it's a crazy number. It's 90% of their entire experience is related to shipping, which makes you wonder how you can impact that. And that's the topic that we're going to talk about here today. Shipping as an experience. So that's the 30 minutes that you have now in front of you. And having so many people here for 30 minutes is truly exceptional. So I mean, me and Tom is gonna try not to disappoint you and try to bring as much data and insights as possible. But independent of mine and Tom's experience, the entire 30 minutes that we have in front of us is based on data that nShift sits on. So nShift has tens of thousands of customers using our software. And when nShift, we help merchants at the end, I mean, to book shipments at the core. So we help people with that to connect to carriers. And when that magic happens, we sit on a lot of data and we see a lot of trends and movements in the data that we can talk about. And that's what we're coming from here today, me and Tom, doing our presentation. So if you don't believe me and Tom, you can at least believe nShift because we sit on the data. So short introduction, that was the intro. So my name is Carl. I'm Vice President at nShift for Strategic Growth. And what that means is that I work with revenue expansion, like innovation products for nShift. And with me here today, I have Tom. So Tom, short introduction of yourself.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. That's me. I seem to be looking up at some skyscrapers in a very thoughtful way, don't I? But no, appreciate you all joining us. And yeah, just to reiterate Carl's point that I have the opportunity to interact with a lot of our customers and hear their feedback and so forth. And as Carl mentioned, we do have a wealth of data, so we'll be sharing some of the insights that we have, and then we can look at how you could perhaps apply them best to your business going forward. But thank you for joining us today.
So let's jump into it. So what we see when we talk to our customer base, a lot of them, not everyone, but a lot of them, they see shipping as optimizing cost. It's like trucks, it's parcels, it's whole dudes in suits, it's warehouses, which is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of focus on actually optimizing that cost, and that's all good. But uh, it's something usually that people talk about what that they do at their end of their when they do their business. It's something like it's almost like a chore, and that's where most of the focus is spent, which is as I said, it's all fine. But me and Tom, we're here today to actually talk about actually to raise the view a little bit and look at it as I mentioned before, as Vola did, to see it as an experience. So to prepare for this webinar, we actually did a short survey. So we actually, so nShift has said, we sit on a lot of customers that we can talk to. So we did a survey for 250 top Danish retailers to prepare for the webinar. So we asked them one simple question: we can actually reduce your shipping cost. Would you be interested actually to talk to us about this? And I thought it's going to be like 200 people actually jumping on that. But the funny thing is, we got one retailer saying, "Actually, I'm ready for that." And that told me, Tom, something that actually, I think you're already on top of this. You know how to optimize your shipping costs. You have this under control. That's what you see. That's where you focused in the past. But I would argue you're missing out on the good stuff, how you can actually increase that revenue and at the end bring more profit to your company. So we want to talk about that shipping is not just an expense to minimize, it's actually an experience that can drive that profit for you. So me and Tom, I would argue we are on a journey here with shipping as an experience to actually bring better buying experiences for European like end buyers, like private people, actual consumers buying online to have, I mean, it's almost called the Vola experience I just mentioned, instead of having a worse one where it's mostly cost related. And we're going to go through a few examples of that in three areas during this webinar, which is checkout, which happens at the end when people actually make the decision. They've selected a payment method, and now they want to like have the goods they're going to buy, the order is going to be delivered in the way they want it. So that's the checkout part. The tracking part is what happens after the purchase is done, like where is the actual parcel. And the return piece is like is more on the side of if you want to return that order, if we or change it or something similar. So those are the three areas we want to talk about here today to make European buyers even happier. Uh, so let's jump into it then. So I'm going to jump into the first topic, which is returns. I'm going to talk about the problem. And the problem here today that we're going to bring up is actually an actual problem for one of my colleagues. This happened, I'm going to flip through this. This actually happened, and we have, I mean, this is not throwing out under the bus here, but this is our VP of product in nShift. He bought something, I think it was new ski clothes, and he wanted to exchange them because he found something else online. And actually return it back. And this is what he was faced with. Manual forms, trying to reach out to the retailer and actually try to hand it back. And as you see, the experience here is not ideal. It's quite disconnected to maybe how you want to have a shipping experience connected to your brand. And this is actually like premium ski clothes that he bought. So the problem here is that on the return piece, having a process like this, of course, affects your overall shipping experience. And if we talk about the cost related to it, we have some numbers that we usually talk to about that almost 9 out of 10 consumers say they won't come back to retail if they had a poor return experience. And I can tell you my colleague that bought these ski clothes, he didn't buy anything more from this actual retailer. Almost 8 out of 10 say that they would stop shipping in the sense of more likely to shop with the retailer, but that has, which is the positive thing here. They'll shop with the retailer who has a smooth and fast return process. Sorry, I dropped that. And the cost is actually what we see. The average cost for one return, which is the internal handling, is around 20 euros per return. So I mean, if you have return grades or rates are like between 20 and 40%, that's a massive amount of money just cost running there. And actually those calls trying to reach out, if it could be like, where's actually my order, where's my return, where's my return, where's my money, what's happening with it? Those calls, each call almost cost 2.6 euros taking those internally. So the solution, I would say it's returns is a funny thing because many see returns as just like digitizing the actual return process. I would argue that's maybe a blast of the past. I think it's much more to it. We need to start talking about like actually saving that revenue in a sense. And it means like actually offering your consumers, your buyers, an option to do exchanges or maybe getting vouchers to do that revenue, saving that revenue in a sense. So it's actually removing, it's not only digitizing, it's also giving more options in a sense to actually hand back that goods. But also to get that solution when it comes to returns to fit people's lives. So you can almost see that's with the checkout when you have several delivery methods. You can also do that with the return piece, meaning that you want to return that goods you just bought and go to maybe a PUDO point, or like a drop-off point that may be close to your office or something else, to actually offering more delivery methods like return options at the return is also really a strong thing. So to summarize, don't only digitize it, offer exchanges and vouchers, and also offer lots of methods like return options to fit people's lives. So over to you, Tom.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here. I actually I want to reiterate a point you make, Carl. I think it's really, really important there. You highlighted 84% of consumers they consider returns experience in a follow-up purchase, and I think that's massive, and that's something that I think really reflects that returns they've moved beyond just a logistical function or logistical task, and they're actually a really important part of the entire customer experience. And I think what that says is that they can either a returns experience can either enhance or damage a satisfaction with a brand, and that directly plays then to the behavior, their loyalty, and so forth going forward. Ultimately, the customer lifetime value. So it's a very important part of the overall experience. And there's a few things I'd like to look at here. These are some of the insights that we have and have looked at. And I think one important one to look at is around 30% of you can take around 30% of what would have ordinarily been returns and convert them to exchanges, and that's very meaningful in that's directly relevant to the amount of revenue that you can actually generate or lose in the process. And it's an opportunity, not only that, to actually turn again a negative experience, having to go through the process of returning, into a smooth and delightful experience by being able to return it for the right item. So it's a second bite of the apple, if you like. I think another aspect that we see, it's a strong trend, and it's certainly going upwards rapidly, is around 15% of the returns process is now going in store here. And that makes a lot of sense, right? It makes sense in that it's very convenient and it's compatible with people's lifestyles. I think you had a point earlier, Carl, where it's line of sight. They can drop off a package on the way to work, on the way home, and so forth. So what we see is a clear trend in PUDO, pick up and drop off points. That means, and certainly doing it in store. It's all about making it a fluid, less friction experience. And moreover, I mean, we said it's not just about digitizing, it's about the overall experience. But by doing it, by leaning into using the right tools for the job, you can actually end up with a 50% reduction in the amount of time it takes to handle an order, handle a return. And then bear in mind, included in that bracket is the people calling up to ask about their return. What's the process of the return? Whereabouts is it? Where is my exchange? And so forth. So overall, I think the big takeaway of returns is they're a net win by doing them right and thinking about how they actually an important component of the overall experience. And again, to reiterate, that 84% of users consider that when they actually come back to make another purchase from you.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. So let's jump on to the next piece then, the tracking piece. So the problem, and I mean, we love Royal Mail. This is just an example of something we purchased earlier. So we're using it because I think it's quite normal. So the problem is that the customer actually decided to buy from you. They trusted you, they did all the research, they built up everything up until the actual purchase. And then after they press the confirm button, like I'm actually buying these pair of shoes or whatever, they want their order. I mean that they want it fast and they want to have good updates on what's happening. And then this happens. They are sent away to like another brand, another experience. And sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes, I mean, I think we all experienced it. Sometimes it's not as amazing. And uh, and quite often the events that it's given, like where it's actually my order, those events could be quite ambiguous. It's not always very clear what's happening to my purchase. And I mean, that's actually the core of the tracking problem. It's very disconnected from your customer experience, and it's actually another experience, another brand taking over the entire journey for that purchase. And if you look at the cost, I think in here, most of you know what the most asked question is for a support desk for a retailer. It's actually, funny enough, where's my order? So, and that where's my order piece is actually cost for that, what we see is average 12 euros for a WISMO interaction. It costs a company 12 euros each time that's happening. So not only are you giving away your brand, you're also driving a massive cost refactoring a massive cost here for those interactions. And the solution, I think it's quite easy actually. It's more taking ownership yourself for that tracking experience. You can own that. You can see that as your own, and you can also remove all those "Where's my order" calls. But again, given how hard it's actually to reach all those customers, you know this yourself. I mean, it's gold to be able to reach those customers, to have those active interactions where you can talk to your customers. To actually give that away to someone else is quite strange from our perspective, where you actually can own that and you can have their full attention each time. And there was a very good report, I think it was from Google I mean, it was maybe a year ago or so, called the messy middle. And I mean, in the past, people saw marketing as a funnel. I mean, I don't want to be in a funnel. I don't want to be pushed through awareness, consideration, and conversion. It's actually not as beings wants to be. But the reality is more on the right-hand side, it's very messy. So I mean, again, going back to the tracking experience, here you have someone that bought something, they trusted you, and you have their full attention because they want that pair of shoes. Why not make use of those interactions and that attention and start to actually propose new stuff? I mean, or give like marketing material, or like give answers, FAQs, upsell, resell, whatever. So that is the true strong piece about the tracking piece. And I recommend you, if the Messy Middle is a good report to read, but this is like a very strong tool that's not average to drive new revenue and reduce that cost.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. First of all, guys, thank you. We got we got a question, so please do keep the questions coming in the Q&A tab at the bottom here, and we'll come back to them. But I appreciate that. Please do keep them coming. Tracking, I'm not going to reiterate Carl's points, but I do want to highlight something I think is really, really important, and something we see a lot of successful retailers are doing. And that's that when you're offering people a tracking experience, tracking links and what have you, and they can go in and in the case of nShift, use a branded tracking experience to actually follow delivery status. That's an extremely valuable touch point to consider, and I think it's often overlooked as an opportunity. So just to quote some of the numbers we experience there, it's up to 25% click-through rate. Industry average is what, 3-5% perhaps? And by click-through rate, I mean that when they actually get the tracking email or the tracking link, that they actually go ahead and click that link. So that's a great way to actually re-engage with the consumer after they've left the checkout and once they're following the journey of their package. And I think moreover there, the conversion rates are just exceptional. And by conversion, we mean once the user has opened the email and perhaps you want to run a campaign or promote signing up to a newsletter, what have you, the type of actions you might want to offer a user, it's up to a 50% conversion on that. So this is a really, really important opportunity to re-engage with the user after the fact in a mail that they actually want to receive or an interaction that they actually want to take part in. And moreover, I think probably the very big win to providing tracking is the actual 60% drop off we see in the where is experience. Where is my order? That's people typically sending mails, calling on the phone to ask where their order is. And that all adds up. And I think back to the earlier point, that's another component of the overall experience when it comes to actually offering tracking. And just to throw one figure here, 78% of consumers are more inclined to switch brands if they don't have a good tracking experience, if they feel uncertain where their package is. And I think we can all relate to that, right? When you've ordered something and it doesn't appear to be moving, it appears to be static, or it's a very cryptic update. It sort of plays on your mind, doesn't it? And you want to know where it is, and that's driving calls, etc. So tracking a really, really important part of the overall experience and a great way to re-engage a consumer or a customer once they've actually left the checkout and their order is on the way.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. Let's jump to the last one, the problem with the checkout. So the checkout is a funny thing. I mean, all of us have gone through this, and I'm just gonna show two good examples on it from something we set up for this webinar. So the first one is here I'm trying to buy a football shirt from a very famous football team, and as you see, it's my actual details here. In that sense, as you see, is only one delivery method here shown in that sense. So, I mean, I mean, in that sense, it doesn't really fit my life. I mean, I don't know, maybe I might want this to sent to my office, or I want to have like a pickup point. I mean, there's only one option here, which is quite ambiguous. And in that sense, this is going to be in Swedish, which is all fine, I hope. This is like opening hours for the Puder points. This is another purchase I made. And when I went to the purchase, it's on my local, it's like a few hundred meters from where I live. And to pick up things, it actually was closed on the Saturday I was there, and it said like temporary. So in essence, I think the problem with checkout, how people actually look at it, is that, as you know, no human being is other alike in that sense. And that's how you should treat your checkout as well. It needs to be unique. It needs to fit people's lives. So the buyers, the consumers, they want believers that fit their lives, not another chore like to deal with. I mean, it becomes like something cumbersome, something that you need to overcome. It's like almost like cleaning your house almost. So it's another chore in that sense. You need to be thinking about the checkout from that standpoint. It shouldn't create problems for consumers. That experience need to be very strong and closely related to your brand. And the cost, I mean, this is going to be a risky thing, but we're actually going to do a small test now. So we're going to fire up a poll instead of throwing a few numbers. So we want to ask you guys to be very honest. If you would look for alternatives, I mean, would you be hesitant to actually purchase if it was only one delivery method available? So just hit yes, I would be hesitant, or no, I would purchase anyway. And we will come back to that result shortly, and we will continue with the presentations meanwhile. And we will bring back, because I mean, you can all relate to this because all of you have bought online, of course. Oh, sorry, I need to just remove this one. Yeah, so then the solution. If we jump to the solution, this is actually customer of nShift. So the solution here is very nicely. So I mean, again, here you see a solution where the retailer actually understands how I'm trying to buy beer here. I'm gonna be open with that. They understand that, I mean, I have different ways of actually picking up this beer, and I have actually my pickup points closer related to me. And this is actually the real ones in which it's working very nicely. So they understand that I'm a unique person and I have unique needs, and they need to actually match that with my life. And I know also that these customers using this in a very nice way to actually drive down cost with some carriers. I mean, they have different options here. It's different carriers shown in that. Here it's actually same, but they could have different carriers shown to actually drive down that cost. And also that means like comparison power with several carriers. And again, it shouldn't increase the actual cart abandonment. It actually should increase conversion rates and revenue. And with that, you get actually happy customers. So here's me and Tom looking very happy getting our beers because the delivery methods was actually quite many in fitting our lives in that sense.
Yeah, I think my avatar should be slightly more grey, to be honest. I won the lottery there. You can tell who made them, I suppose. No, there's one thing I'd like to sort of close with here, and we're running short on time. But I think obviously it's a really important one. But 55% of customers, in our experience, will actually abandon a checkout if they don't have sufficient delivery options. And you've done all the work, right? You've got the product listings, you've fine-tuned the product offering, you've done the ads, etc. You brought the user all the way there, or the customer there, and then dropping the ball, 55%, a huge amount to actually lose at the checkout experience. And in short, we have a great question related to this as well, which we'll come back on shortly. I think one thing to really consider about is A/B testing. As I say, it's you've done all the work, and this is the area to really fine tune and really consider what kind of options would work. And I don't think there's any one size fits all. And the reason I say that is slap back in the middle, you have about 50% of users who just want convenience really. Then either sides of the spectrum, you have something called NFC, need for cognition. So customers are generally low or high NFC. Low means they just want ease of use. They'll pick the first option available. They want convenience. High NFC users, they want options. They want choice. They want to look at the different delivery options that are available to them and tune it to exactly their needs. And I think the way to do that in checkout is to really invest heavily in A/B testing and finding what works for your business, finding the optimal price points and so forth. And I think that's absolutely best practice. Really test the checkout, find what works for you, for your products, for your customers, and by doing that, you can end up with tremendous success, I think.
And also, we now saw that on the hesitant question we used to ask, 80%, which is a crazy number by the way, because I've done this question before, 80% would feel hesitant to actually buy if it was only one delivery method current. So that's like 8 out of 10. And so that's actually a crazy number. So let's move on to this one.
Well, in closing, I think we want to leave some time for some questions here. But the short version is, I think what we're saying here is that it's not one thing, right? It's not one thing that can go wrong. It's about all these three components working seamlessly together, and playing off each other, and they all add up to a great experience. And I think the key message here, Carl, if you step forward, is that it's something that we think a lot about, is that you might lose a sale, but you don't lose a customer. And I think if there's any big takeaway today, that's the thing to keep top of mind. That losing a sale, but it's all about gaining a customer really. And again, think about that 84% that won't come back if they get a poor returns experience, for example. Really, really important stuff. We got some questions here, Carl. I think should we jump to them?
Yeah, whilst we're doing so, we can actually fire up another poll as well. So me and Tom talked about seeing shipping as a cost driver. Now maybe we want to ask you if we actually move you from being cost driven. I mean, think about yourself. Was I in the cost camp before, and have Tom and Carl actually now moved me into the shipping as experience camp? So this is actually getting some real feedback, also scary stuff. Let's see if we did our job, Tom. Whilst doing that, let's fire up some questions, Tom.
Yeah, so we got a few questions here. One was someone asking, how does the exchange process work? Is it an automated voucher following a return? Could you give some just quick overview of how does for example, nShift returns experience work, Carl?
Yeah. So you can actually do the exchange process. You can actually set rules based on that to actually give exchanges back. So it almost becomes like a method. So you can actually set that also based on different products in that sense. So I mean, we have good explanations on our return page, since we're a little bit out of time here, where we can actually show this. And you're happy to reach out to show you more if needed in that sense.
Yeah, and then one final question here. What do we do in checkout in regards of shipping methods, settings to increase the average order method? What are the types of things you could do in checkout to increase average order values?
So you want to take that one, or should I take that one, Tom?
Well, I can just say, I mean, I'll just reiterate a point. I think that A/B testing, really invest a lot of time into this because it's really, really crucial. So A/B test, find out what the sweet spot is for your brand, for the kind of products you're working with. I'm not sure there's a definitive answer, but over to you, Carl. Do you have any pointers?
No, I think work with those A/B testing to actually test it out. And also, I mean, we have the ability to actually build quite strong rules in that sense. That's also a very strong thing to actually test it out. and those rules can become very strong. And that's based on different parameters. You can like regions, weights, size, price, whatever. So in that sense, it's a very strong tool to actually play around with. And I mean, all the things we didn't answer now in the Q&A. I mean, we're on the clock here exactly now. We'll come back to them and share them afterwards to the attendees.
Carl, I have some good news here. We're on our second poll. We're 100% on hashtag team experience. So
really?
we did it. We did okay, I think.
Yeah, we did okay. That's good. So 10, I mean, the entire crowd here, which is very nice. So thank you for that. We actually moved you from the cost camp to the shipping as experience camp. So with that, I would say, Tom, change the slide, last one. We're going to say thank you so much for joining the 31 minutes. Partially go a little bit over, and we'll share things afterwards. And thanks, Tom, for today.
Oh, thank you, Carl. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we hope you found it useful.
Yeah. Bye-bye.